Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of the Felix Culpa podcast. I am your host, Felix, and I want to thank you so much for checking out this video. I think this is really going to help a lot of people, a lot of a certain kind of people, persons, I don't know. And that is the anxious Christian, as you see in the title of the video. And I want to share my thoughts uh, about how a Christian or even just any person in general could possibly remove or significantly reduce their experience of anxiety, this specific kind of anxiety. And it all starts with having a biblical anthropology. Now, anthropology is just a fancy word for the study of humans, but I add the qualifier biblical because we cannot understand ourselves apart from understanding ourselves as made in God's image and understanding who God is and what he says about us. So we have to start with a biblical anthropology. Who are we as human beings? What are we made of? What are we made for? I'm not going to cover that exhaustively, but I'm going to talk about some of the things that are relevant to a person having anxiety. What does the biblical anthropology have to do with someone being anxious? Well, let's start with this. We have physical needs. We have psychological needs as well that God has built into us. And whenever it is the case that we don't live in accordance with those needs, or we don't live with those needs in mind and fulfill them in the most optimal biblical way, we experience negative emotions and we experience negative consequences. For instance, we have a need for relationship that is built into us as human beings. If we go about meeting that need for relationship in uh, ways that are not sanctioned by the Bible, we call that sin. A lot of the times, not all the time. But either way, there's going to be negative consequences if you don't meet your need for relationship the way that the Bible prescribes. Okay. So we cannot remove these needs that we have from us. They're built into us and they're supposed to be met in a biblically sanctioned way. So this is where the experience of anxiety comes in, because anxiety, at least the type that I'm thinking of, is a really unsettling feeling, like like something is wrong or something is off, or you are uh, having this sense like you're almost like in danger of something, like you're anticipating something going wrong, and there's a lot of fidgeting that is associated with it, like you're tapping or you're kind of like shaking your hands, and sometimes you pace back and forth, or maybe you have to go for a walk. That's the kind of anxiety that I'm talking about. So what does that have to do with our biblical anthropology? Great question. So one of the things that or one of the ways that we were created as human beings, one of the needs that we have psychologically, is to accomplish. What did God say in Genesis? To have dominion over the earth. We were created to be intentional, purposeful beings. So we're meant to be about something. So whenever it is the case that we're living lives that are not intentional, that are not purposeful, in other words, we have no sense of what we want to accomplish, we have no sense of direction, we're aimless, what happens is that need for accomplishing something, for doing something, for being about something, it's a psychological need. There's like a certain energy that we have within us. It's like a psychological energy that's supposed to drive us to do these things. Otherwise, we might not do a lot of these things. I think that's why God gave us all of these drives and needs to move us to live in accordance to his design. But what happens is when the mind registers that we have no clear sense of direction, we have no goals for ourselves, and that we're aimless, that energy that is supposed to drive you, it's like that energy gets trapped within you and obviously manifests in your body as well, because we're holistic beings. You can't really separate your mind from your body and vice versa. And that trapped energy that you have that's supposed to drive you to accomplish something is what's called anxiety. That's why you feel like you have to pace. That's why you want to go walk somewhere or move or go, because it is a physical manifestation of that psychological, energetic drive to accomplish something, because that's how God made us to be. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that everyone who struggles with this type of anxiety is a couch potato or a bum. You can be accomplishing things. You can be living a life that is filled with meaning and so on and so forth, and doing things. But if you have a vague sense of direction of what you want to accomplish with your life and where you want to go with your life, that alerts your mind, and your mind is starting to go into a panic mode, and so it gives you this energetic bump so that you can develop a clear sense of direction. And I would challenge you with this: if you struggle with this type of anxiety that I'm describing, write down some goals, get a clear vision of who you want to be, of where you want to go with your life, what you want to do with your life, not just in your head, because that's too vague, but write it down specifically. And I think the more specific you are with what you want to accomplish, with what you want your life to be about, the less you will feel anxious, because now your mind registers, we do have a place where we're going. There is a plan of action for the future. And so that drive that you have to accomplish something, that energy has an outlet, and it knows, your mind knows that you're going somewhere. So now it no longer has to kind of go into overdrive and feed you this energy, and then it gets trapped inside and you start to feel anxious. I would encourage you to do that, even for the next couple of weeks, maybe the next couple months. I'm not sure how long it will take. It may vary from person to person, but I would be willing to bet that if you did what I just said, you would begin to experience a great reduction in your anxiety. And if that happens, I would love to hear about that. I would love to, you can reach out to me in a message or leave it in the comments for other people to see as well. But I really think if we had a biblically informed uh, opinion on this thing we call anxiety, a lot of it could be alleviated and possibly removed, because once again, we are living according to God's design, with God's drives that He's put within us in mind. So, anyway, those are my 2 cents on anxiety as a person who has struggled with anxiety in my own life for 2 years, kind of nonstop. So, I'm very sympathetic. And I don't think that there's a easy answer to everything, but I think this is an important piece, a missing piece to this conversation of the anxious Christian. So take it for what it's worth. I hope it's helpful. I hope it gets you thinking. Please feel free to leave your comments. And thank you so much for watching. God bless.